All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Time for our Bible class, and we are continuing in our study of the minor prophets. We'll be in lesson 31 today, and we will be in Hosea chapter 5. Four and 5 kind of go together as we're talking about Israel's punishment. But chapter 5 actually expands that a little bit and talks about Judah also. So I think we can get quickly through chapter 5 and again through some of the chapters in these later parts of Hosea. I think we'll get through it pretty quickly. So, verse 19 of chapter 4. A wind is wrapped around them in its wings, and they shall be ashamed because of their sacrifices. And later on we'll see a passage that talks about they have sown the wind and they will reap the whirlwind. So what has happened? What has gone wrong? Well, verse 1, hear this, O priests, pay attention, O house of Israel. Give ear, O house of the king, for the judgment is for you have been a snare at Mizpah, and set a net spread upon Tabor, and the revolters have gone deep into slaughter, but I will discipline all of them. So you've got some of the major characters here. You have the priests, who are supposed to be teaching the people the law, and they're not doing that. You have the king who's supposed to be leading the people politically, but also leading the people toward God. They're not doing that. The high places have become places for idol worship, and the people are basically revolting against God. And the revolters have gone deep into slaughter. They've become a nation that's not a nation of peace and prosperity, but a nation that they're just, we had that passage earlier about bloodshed leading to more bloodshed, and it's like once you kill the spirit of a people, then you kill the prosperity of the people, you kill the hopes of the people, and then you just end up killing people. They've just gone deeper and deeper into this slaughter. But, there at the end of verse 2, the Lord says, I will punish, or I will discipline all of them. So, verse 3, I know Ephraim, and Israel is not hidden from me. For now, O Ephraim, you have played the whore. Israel is defiled. Their deeds do not permit them to return to their God, for the spirit of whoredom is within them, and they know not the Lord. And that's where we come to the first point, really, to delve into this a little bit deeper. Ephraim's deeds do not permit them to return to the Lord. And it's like, don't get too involved in something, because there'll be a place of no return, okay? I like the movie with Robert Mitchum and Marilyn Monroe, The River of No Return, you know, and I like whitewater rafting. I've done it a couple times. I like it, but, you know, can't do it all the time. But once you start down that stream, you've got plenty of opportunities to get to the side or even turn back. But once you start into those rapids, you're done. You've got to go, and you better be alert, and you better be ready. And Ephraim had headed down this path of turning away from the Lord, and now they've gone so far into it, they just can't go back. They just can't go back. Why? Well, you're going to find out later. But they can't go back. They've got to continue in those ways. And it seems like politically those things happen in nations. I think that was the cause, a big cause of the Civil War in the United States, okay? And a lot of people will talk about, well, it was because of freedom, it was because of states' rights, blah, blah, blah. But I think a lot of it was that there were people who were just so intent on slavery that they just could not let go of that. Understand what I'm saying? And even after the war, okay, continue to try to hold on somehow with the oppression and stuff. You know, it took a long time to kind of get rid of that what's going to be called here in a few minutes, that spirit. And does that spirit still exist somewhat today? I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. Okay? But that's a human problem, isn't it? A human problem. But that human problem has to start somewhere. Okay? It has to start somewhere. So, for the verse 4, their deeds do not permit them to return to the Lord, or return to their God, for the spirit of whoredom is within them, and they know not the Lord. So here was Israel starting off with God, the Lord brought them out of Egypt, eventually brought them into the promised land, divided that up. They did fairly good under Joshua, and when the elders that were there at the time of Joshua, but once those people died, they started regressing back to idolatry, leading up to the time then of Rehoboam and Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, when the kingdoms are divided. And then it's just that extra step when the king who takes the northern kingdom, the northern tribes away, says, hey, I built you a place to worship in Bethel, and up here's a place to worship in Dan. You don't need to go down to Jerusalem anymore. You worship there. You can worship there. And most of the people kind of accepted that. This concept of the spirit of whoredom. What? For the spirit of whoredom is within them. What do you think of that phrase? I know that's subjective and that's good. What do you think of that phrase?
That it had become their norm instead of an exception.
They practice it, think about it.
Practice, deeds, okay? The norm, the standard.
Acceptance. It
Acceptance.
became an acceptance.
Their way of life. I mean,
A way of life. Yeah. Okay. What is a spirit? Now, the word spirit here comes from the Hebrew word ruah, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. and it means, it comes from wind, just like our spirit, pneuma in the Greek, wind. By resemblance, breath. The Lord breathed into Adam the breath of life, and he became a living being, living soul. That is a sensible, and parentheses here, or even violent, close parentheses, exhalation. Figuratively, life, anger, unsubstantiality. Unsubstantiality. What is substance?
Does that mean no basis for it?
That's where the comes in. And that's kind of like in the New Testament where Jesus says, you hear the wind blows and you hear it and you see the effects of it, but you don't know where it comes from and you don't know where it's going. You know, kind of like that. And he's relating that to the Holy Spirit, right? Let me go on here. By resemblance, figuratively, then by extension, a region of the sky, by resemblance, spirit, but only of a rational being, parentheses, including its expression and functions, close parentheses. By resemblance, spirit, but only of a rational being. If I'm getting this correctly, and I'm going to do more study on it, because these words come from the Hebrew language, and then they're translated about 200 BC into the Greek in the Septuagint language, and then come to the New Testament, because a very high percentage, almost all of the New Testament that we have from the manuscripts were written in Greek, but the when you have quotations from the Old Testament, it comes from the Septuagint, from the Greek, and very seldom, in a few places only, does it come from the Hebrew. So if you have a Hebrew scholar translating or saying what the Hebrew writers over history would speak about versus somewhat of this over into even New Testament times, and even trying to tell us today that when you're talking about this spirit of whoredom, you're talking about demons. That the demons have taken control. Follow me? Okay. Acts chapter 15, is it? Let's see. Acts chapter 17. When Paul goes to Mars Hill.
Which verse?
Acts chapter 17, starting verse 22. Well, no, let's drop back to 17, verse 17. That's Paul, reasoned in the synagogue with the Jews and the devout persons, And in the marketplace every day, with those who happen to be there, some of the Epicurean and Stoic philosophers also conversed with him, and some said, "What does this babbler wish to say?" Others said, "He seems to be a preacher of foreign divinities." Okay? Foreign divinities.
Different gods. They're thinking he's speaking of different gods.
Mm-hmm. And the word there is daimonion, which is plural, of a derivative of 1142, that's in Strong's, a demonic being, by extension a deity, devil or god. So in the Greek understanding of the panoply of gods, remember, they had their gods, okay? And he's speaking about strange gods, but what are they? They're demons. What we would call demons. So this spirit of whoredom are, shall we say, these false gods. Okay, if we think of a false god as, or here's an idol. You bow down and you worship this idol. Okay? Seriously. But what has caused people to fall down and worship this idol?
They've been fed information that makes them think they need to be worshipped
By what?
by another spirit or a man.
By a demon. Something that is real. An idol is nothing, and that's what Paul says. But did Paul believe in demons? Did Paul cast out demons? Did Jesus believe in demons? Yes. Okay? And that's something that we lose, okay? Sometimes as we look at it. And I've talked before that I believe that the demons have been, since the time of the destruction of Jerusalem, put into the bottomless pit. All right? They can't come and affect people. Satan himself cannot come in and possess somebody's body. Okay. Are they able to influence?
Sure.
And if it's just simply because we live in a fallen world that they once controlled, the answer is yes. How much power do they have? I don't know. I don't
You've
know.
got somebody that's full-blown drug addict or they've got mental illness, they can think that's the case, but that's not. It's not the case, but it can make them do things that may not be because of them, but it can influence them to their actions.
Right. You go back and you read some of the literature about what was going on in the late 50s, early 60s with the experiments with LSD and stuff. There's kind of a door there that it opens that, but a lot of what it is open to is a world that is I don't know a whole lot about, but what little bit I studied on it, there's a commonality of what people see. And if you want to explain it, the easiest way to explain it is there. Okay? Demons. But the, the power of the control of the individual, that's what I'm trying to get at. All right? It doesn't have to be an absolute power of the demon over the individual. All it has to be is the individual buying into the power of the demon. We talked a little bit about that last week. All right? With gambling. Okay? People start a little bit and then they get more into it, more into it, more into it. Right? But why? Because they buy into the power of something that is taking them away from what is good and proper. You follow me?
You're thinking what I can win, how much money that's gonna give me.
Well,
It kind of controls them.
okay. Give me 2 weeks and we'll talk more about it.
Okay. I mean, but look at my dad, I mean, the
Okay.
day he passed, that's all he could think of.
But
Never mind, I'm sorry.
what a demon in that respect has no more power over us than the power we give to the demon.
Okay.
Drugs, alcohol, same way. Right? Sexual perversions. You got politicians. We need a drag queen in every school. Okay? What are they buying into? That's what I'm trying to get into, and that's what I'm trying to present, is that these Old Testament scholars would have understood that. Maybe this is something we have, we've kind of relinquished, we've kind of broken the bonds of it through the Renaissance, where, well, there are no spirits, there is no God, there is no morality or absolute morality and absolute ethics and stuff, and then coming clear up to the late 1800s where Nietzsche can finally say, God is dead. And he's not really saying that God is dead. What he's saying is that the Spirit of God basically is dead. And where was the Spirit of God dead at?
In the hearts of men.
Well, Europe. And creeping over into the United States. Here there was the great revival and the restoration movement. And man, that got stifled in a hurry. Right? And then you lead in with what Nietzsche was saying, and then all of a sudden you get the concept of the Superman. Well, I can be a Superman if I just ignore that there are morals. If I just accept that there are no morals, and if somebody disagrees with me, I can take them out and shoot them, or put them in a concentration camp and kill them off there. Then what? See? And what that led to was millions of people, innocent people, dying in the 20th century. But it's back to Hosea chapter 5. Find Hosea there. That spirit of whoredom is within them. What was it I told you? Was it verse 1 of chapter 4? If I go back, because I like the way I had it phrased. Oops. Need to go back one more. Maybe another one. There. Israel's casual flirtation with demonic spirits led to wholesale idolatry. Right? It started with a casual flirtation. And what happened? More and more and more. They got into it until, there in chapter 5, for the spirit of whoredom is within them. It became a part of them.
The culture.
Culture of it. Yes.
And that's true with any perversion.
Mm-hmm. But you see how it grows. You see how it starts, and you see how it grows, and you see where it gets to the point where what? Their deeds do not permit them to return to their God. So what's God left to do? What's God left to do? He's got to destroy them. He's got to destroy them. And it's essentially they're destroying themselves. Right? And what do we say? If America is going to be destroyed, how's it going to be destroyed? From inside. We're going to destroy ourselves. All right. So, and there, they know not the Lord. That's where it had taken them to. They didn't know. And why can't they return to the Lord? Verse 5. The pride of Israel testifies to his face. They're so proud of what they were doing. They're so proud of their unrighteousness, ungodliness, their lack of morality and ethics. Israel and Ephraim shall stumble in his guilt. And look, Judah also shall stumble with them. Remember? Little sister don't do what your big sister done, all right? But the thing about Judah, and we'll go ahead and throw it in here now, is at the time of Hezekiah, Judah repents. The northern kingdom never repents. They've gone too far. They repent and they last from 720 down to 606. Another 100 years or so before they become basically totally corrupt. All right, verse 6. With their flocks and herds they shall go to seek the Lord, but they will not find him. He has withdrawn from them. Well, wait a minute, they're coming to seek the Lord. Lord, why won't you accept them? Verse 7. They have dealt faithlessly with the Lord. And they're coming with flocks and herds now to bring sacrifices. to the Lord? Okay, first day of the week we'll worship the sun. Second day of the week we'll worship the moon. Second day, third day, on. And then on the Sabbath day, we'll bring our flocks and herds. We'll bring our sacrifices to the Lord. No, 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 no. The Lord won't accept it. That isn't how you do it. You shall have what? How many gods before him? None. It work that way. They have dealt faithlessly with the Lord, for they have borne alien children. Okay? Alien children. That doesn't necessarily mean children from other countries. That means children that are dedicated to other gods.
Don't know
Demons.
the true God.
They don't, yeah. That there are your children speak the language of Ashdod. We can say that today about how many people are there that worship and say they're Christians, all right, and go to church on Sunday, right? They don't know the Bible. They don't know what the Bible teaches. They know what the preacher tells them, right? Or the priest tells them, but they don't know. They have no concept. Now the new moon shall devour them with their fields. And that's got to be some type of figurative language there. The new moon. What's a new moon?
New quarter.
It's not a quarter.
Full. It's a full.
No. It's the opposite of full, isn't it?
Oh, that's when it, after the one
Oh, yeah,
starts to
true.
turn again.
So what's a new moon?
New moon is nothing.
Nothing. It's dark.
It's dark, there's not one.
A darkness shall devour them with their fields. Darkness. God isn't going to speak to them anymore. So, verse 8 through 12, destruction's on the horizon. All right, blow the horn in Gibeah, which was before a prominent place of worship to the Lord. The trumpet in Ramah, and go back, and isn't that where Samuel had the ark and where he led worship? Sound the alarm at Beth-aven. Beth-aven, that Bethel is the house of the Lord, but Beth-aven is the house of, come on. It's not the house of the Lord, it's the house of like confusion or whatever. But, okay, sound the alarm at Beth-aven. We follow you, O Benjamin. We follow you, O Benjamin. Now, if you don't know your history, if you don't know your Bible history, you're not going to understand that. Remember when Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, rebelled against Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, split the kingdoms? How many tribes went with Jeroboam, the son of Nebat? There were 12 tribes.
Half of them.
Why do we talk about the lost 10 tribes then? No, you're still wrong. There were 11 that went with, only Judah was left, okay? Benjamin went with them at first. Then Benjamin came back and went with Judah. That's why Benjamin's called the right hand, Judah's right hand, okay? Follow me? Now you've got the 10 lost tribes. Right? So now with the destruction of the northern kingdom, sound the alarm at Bethaven. We follow you, O Benjamin. Benjamin made a conscious decision. That tribe made a conscious decision to say, we're not sticking with the idol worshipers. We're going back to Judah. Okay? But Ephraim now, they're going to go back. They're going to go back to Judah, but not as a conscious decision. Follow me? They're going to go into exile for 100 and, well, go from 720 to 5, we'll say 5, well, if we say 520, that's 200 years. So almost 200 years, when they come back to those descendants come back to the promised land, they don't come back as they have their individual tribal lineage, but they come back as Judeans, Jews. Follow me? That's why that's there. You're not going to come back as Ephraimites. You're not going to come back as the nation of Israel. You're going to come back to Judah, and Judah's going to rule over you.
So is that where the Jews actually expand, is from that? I mean, that's where you get the modern day Jews came from that?
Yeah, that's the post-exilic, especially for in the land. Now, listen, not all of them came back. There were still those places throughout the world where the Jews continued to live, like Alexandria, Egypt, where the Septuagint was translated, and places through the what we call the Middle East and up into Europe, where the Apostle Paul eventually evangelized, because that's where those synagogues were, and they could go to the Jews. But those who came back, they came back under the banner of Judah. But that's the only choice they had, right? So, verse 9. Ephraim shall become a desolation in the day of punishment among the tribes of Israel. I make known what is sure. And that's what happened. The princes of Judah have become like those who move the landmark. Upon them I will pour out my wrath like water. And boy, there's a lesson for today, isn't it? There's a lesson for today. Those who move the landmark. We wouldn't be facing the possibility of nuclear war in Europe right now if the people of the West, of the European Union and NATO, had kept moving the landmarks that were promised. Promised. And they moved the landmarks and they blamed the other person. Verse 11. Ephraim is oppressed, crushed. Ephraim is oppressed. Who's oppressing them? Assyria, right? Right? But now they're going to be crushed in judgment. Who's going to crush them in judgment? The Lord is going to crush them. And it's kind of like, what would you think about being crushed? What would crush a person?
Well, I think it's as simple as back up a little way to where the Lord withdrew from them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a crushing in itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That's crushing, but then comes the punishment. Okay, the Lord withdraws. Okay, remember what we talked about? How many commandments they had broken? How many of the 10 commandments they had broken? What's the punishment for murder?
Death.
Death? By what? What's the punishment for adultery? We catch that one pretty quick though, don't we? The woman caught in adultery, crushed to death with stones. Murder's the same. Stone them to death. This child of mine is rebellious. Stone him. Parents, throw the first stone. What's going to happen to Ephraim? Crushed in judgment. God's like going to be the one to throw the first stone, because he has determined to go after filth, and that's what the idol God, these demons are called, is filth. All right? Why? Why does he say that? Look at verse 12. This is the Lord speaking. But I am like a moth to Ephraim. My people treat me like a moth. What's a moth?
A very agitating bug.
Agitating, destructive bug.
Things.
And that's how they were treating the Lord. And like dry rot to the house of Judah. Isn't that the way some, even people who call themselves Christians, groups that call themselves Christian today, isn't that how they treat God? We're more civilized now. We know better. We know better than God's Word. We know better than what God knows. God's holding us back. We need to be more progressive.
It also could go the other way, to where if something devastating happens and they blame God and say,
It's God's fault.
Yeah, it's God's fault.
God. Yeah. Shameful, isn't it? I want to get this chapter done. When Ephraim saw his sickness and Judah his wound, then Ephraim went to Assyria and sent to the great king. And we talked about that before, all right? Because Syria was causing problems for the northern kingdom, they went over to Assyria and said, hey, help us in our troubles. And they became a vassal state of Assyria, until Assyria oppressed them so much that they finally went to Assyria and to Edom and Moab and Philistine and Phoenicians and all. Hey, let's get a group together and we'll go fight against Assyria because they're oppressing us now. And Judah, you need to come and help us. And Judah said, forget about that. We got no fight here. And so they attacked Judah. Well, this is where it's all coming down to. Middle of verse 13. But he is not able to cure you or heal your wound. It wasn't a political problem. It was a moral problem. It was a problem with, they deserted their God. They deserted the one who was defending them and protecting them and to keep them from being defeated. So, verse 14. For I will be like a lion to Ephraim and like a young lion to the house of Judah. Okay? I will tear and go away. I will carry off, and no one shall rescue. So a lion on the Serengeti over there in Africa, what does it do? It attacks. And it kills and feeds its family. It's pride, right? It's pride. Its pride is its family.
Why does it say I, comma, even I? Why does that like repeated like that or sort of? Or
It's for emphasis.
okay.
This is not Assyria. Assyria is doing it, but God is the Lord is allowing Syria to do it.
Okay.
Don't make the mistake. All right, if the Lord decided that China is going to take over the United States, all right, don't blame China. Blame ourselves and say it's the Lord's will. See what I'm saying?
It
Don't blame
indicates
God.
It indicates that it is not of his nature. Even I, it's not of my nature to be like that and to do that. But even I will do it.
Maybe to a degree, but understanding that it is God's nature to be merciful to a degree. But when that degree is reached, then be assured God can be our worst enemy.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. The devil can do it. Matthew, what is it? 12:26. Do not fear him who can kill the body, but not the soul. Fear him who can kill both body and soul in the fires of hell. Maybe it's 10:20. Anyway, but the passage is there. Yeah, Satan can do a lot, but go look at the book of Job. Okay? Satan's limited. The demons are limited. They can do a lot in trying us, tempting us. But see, a lot of that, in God's sense, is a test. And look, all right, you provoked me, a merciful God, to do this, and I am doing it. Don't be mistaken. Don't say this was an accident. Don't say this was in the stars. I'm doing this, or I'm allowing this to happen. I will tear and go away like the lion. Kill it, eat a little bit, go away, and let the rest consume what they want. I will carry off, and no one shall rescue. Verse 15. I will return again to my place until they acknowledge their guilt and seek my face, and in their distress earnestly seek me. And that's what the exile of the northern kingdom is going to be like. See, like a lion that has taken its prey, what does it do? It may drag that carcass back to its den. Okay? The rest of the family eats, but there it is. And he's done. He doesn't need to hunt anymore that day.
And that's such a great lesson in itself, that one verse carries over into the covenant of grace. All you got to do is turn back to me. I'm still there.
Earnestly.
Earnestly.
But that key is earnestly. And there are a lot of people that you see them and it's just, oh, if I say, you know, in the name of the Lord, or we talked about the indulgences that the Catholic Church did in the Middle Ages. Oh, if I just pay a little bit of money and get a piece of paper, and if I go sin and die and there's no priest there, well, it's okay with me. I'm going to heaven. No. There has to be this earnest, or you know, yeah, I can go down here and I can with Paul, talk about Paul in Second Corinthians, First Corinthians. Anyway, the eating meat. Yeah. Oh, I can go down to the idol temple and I can eat meat there, and it's going to be all right because an idol is nothing, right? Well, yeah, an idol's nothing, but the spirit behind it is something, and you know, if that causes somebody else who can't understand the concept to sin, I'd better just stay away from it. You know, there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot there to look at. But they weren't earnest. Like I say, yeah, yesterday I was over here worshiping here, but tomorrow is the Sabbath, and I'll take my offering down to the Lord. Yeah. In the name of the Lord. I think there's songs written about that, isn't it? You cheat your neighbor and whatever, and then turn around. Well, if not a song, there's a movie or something about it. Yeah, I'm sure. Anyway, that's chapter 5, and thank you